In the 1750s, a young colonial officer named George Washington was locked in a brutal, intense frontier struggle. His enemy, peering through the dense musket smoke of the French and Indian War, was the French military. This history is brought to you by Shasta Unfiltered, presenting today's episode of the American Patriot series. Fast forward a little over a decade to 1777. Washington is now leading a fledgling American rebellion that is nearly bankrupt, isolated, and struggling to survive against the British Empire. The Continental Army desperately needs foreign military aid. Without international standing, however, securing a formal alliance seems impossible. The survival of the American cause would ultimately rest on a rogue citizen from the very empire Washington once viewed as his greatest enemy. Enter Marie-Joseph-Paul-Yves Rocher-Guibert du Motier, better known as the Marquis de Lafayette. He was a 19-year-old French orphan who had inherited a massive aristocratic fortune. Immersed in Enlightenment philosophy, Lafayette became convinced that the American rebellion was fighting for a universal human right, liberty. Acting on that belief meant directly disobeying his own monarch. The French king had issued a strict decree forbidding any of his officers from serving in America. Lafayette ignored the order. Using his vast personal wealth, he purchased and outfitted his own ship, the Victoire, and set sail across the Atlantic. In the 18th century, loyalty was dictated by crown and country. A nobleman abandoning his rank, king, and comfort to chase a foreign philosophical ideal broke the strict geopolitical rules of the era. When Lafayette arrived in South Carolina in June 1777, the Continental Congress was highly skeptical of foreign adventurers. But when the teenager offered to serve without pay, they commissioned him as a major general. He quickly joined Washington's staff. Despite their nation's recent animus, the two men formed a deeply loyal father-son bond. His real test came in September 1777 at the Battle of Brandywine. During a brutal retreat, Lafayette was shot in the leg. Bleeding in the chaos, he refused to leave the battlefield. He stayed on the line to rally the retreating American troops until order was restored. Months later, he traded his life of luxury in France for the brutal winter at Valley Forge, draining his own fortune to buy clothes and muskets for his starving men. By bleeding on foreign soil and sacrificing his own wealth, Lafayette proved he was a hardened American patriot. With his battlefield reputation cemented, Lafayette took on a new role. He returned to France to act as an essential diplomat for the American cause. He aggressively lobbied the French monarchy, using his new fame to push King Louis XVI for overt, formal military intervention. His persuasion worked. Lafayette secured the deployment of elite French troops, naval warships, and massive supply lines that immediately shifted the balance of power. This map illustrates the resulting tactical advantage. By 1781, Lafayette was in Virginia, shadowing British General Cornwallis, blocking his escape by land. With Cornwallis contained, Washington and Rochambeau converged from the north, closing the trap and forcing the siege of Yorktown. Under intense pressure, the British surrendered in October 1781, effectively winning the war for American independence. What began as a teenager's personal defiance ultimately resulted in the military alliance that secured the United States. In 1824, an elderly Lafayette returned to the United States for a farewell tour. He was met in every major city by overwhelming crowds of tens of thousands of people. The nation never forgot his sacrifice. Congress eventually granted him honorary U.S. citizenship, a profoundly rare distinction. His willingness to bleed for a distant people proved that the American cause was driven by a universal human ideal. His legacy stands as a challenge to this day. The principles of freedom belong to no single nation, and they are a cause worth crossing oceans to defend. If you believe in defending these timeless principles, please like, share, and subscribe. You can scan the QR code on screen or visit the link in the description for more honest news and entertainment from Shasta Unfiltered.